aren't with us quite yet.
Why did it do that? Okay. Is that good? You still see my screen? Okay.
We'll give it about 1 more minute for people to join. Get started about 2 after.
Cool.
All right. Well, we're reaching about 2 after, so I think we can go ahead and get started. Miigwech, thank you so much for everyone who has been able to join us today. We really, truly appreciate it. This is the second part in our Farmers Market series, leveraging programs. So I'm really excited to get to dive in to this webinar with Meagen Baldy. You heard from her in our first part of this series, as well as Kristiana Coutu. She's from the Indigenous Food and Ag Initiative as well. She's the director of our policy Research and Tribal Governance Department. Her department has the longest name here at IFAI. And then we have Mallory Moore as well, and she is a staff attorney here at IFAI. So we're really excited to get to dive into programs and how you might be able to utilize them to get your farmers market started or expand and provide more services to your community at the same time. So welcome, welcome. Did want to just go over a few housekeeping things right at the top, which is please utilize the chat, the Q&A feature throughout the presentation if you have any questions, or you can even go off mute and ask questions as well. This is kind of a back and forth, a very informal webinar. At the end, we will have opportunity for Q&A as well if you want to just wait until then to ask your question, but just wanted to throw that out there that you guys are more than welcome to use the Q&A and comment feature throughout. And then also this is being recorded so that we can distribute this after the webinar concludes. So if you have to go and leave, or if you want to refer back to a different part of the webinar, you can do that later whenever we get it uploaded and sent to you. So those are just a few of the housekeeping things. So I'm going to toss it over to Meagen now to get us started into the webinar.
Hi, everybody. My name is Meagen Baldy again. I'm the food safety specialist with the Indigenous Food and Ag Initiative. And in Hoopa, California, which is a local reservation that I reside on, I'm a Hoopa tribal member. We started up a farmers market. It's called Monday Night Markets, and it's a tribal-led farmers market. And so we just wanted to kind of go over and expand on our Farmers Market 101 webinar that we had last week and talk about leveraging programs. So again, IFAI was started at the University of Arkansas by Stacy Leitz and Janie Sims Hip in 2013. Our mission is to enhance the health and wellness in tribal communities by advancing healthy food systems, diversified economic development, and cultural food tradition in Indian country. So this is a little bit of our agenda today. We're going to go over like, what is it that your market's going to need? So these are the questions that I began to ask myself when we started our farmers market, and ask our community, and then also ask, those that are our producers that are going to be selling at the market. So then what type of funding to leverage for that stuff, and then how to access those programs. So we're going to go over those in detail today. So what does your farmer's market need? You know that better than anybody. You're going to know, what is the need. It could be things such as equipment. It could be things such as advertisement, all those types of things that you might need. Those are the things that you want to start thinking about, asking your producers what their needs may be. One of the things that we found out that we needed was some senses of equipment, tables, chairs, pop-ups, those types of things. So we just started asking those questions and really got involved with our producers to ask them those questions as well. You could do surveys and put that out there in the community. Like, what do we want to see at our farmers market? What do we think that is needed? You could put those surveys out. I definitely think that that's a valuable way to collect that data and that information. I myself went out and talked to the community members and then also talked to the tribal producers and non-tribal producers. So Hoopa is a remote community based in Northern California. Our nearest grocery chain, so that's like Costco, Walmart, Winco's, those types of bigger stores, is about 60 miles from the reservation. So we wanted to assess the needs of the producers in the community and what was needed to make our market successful. So first was location. We had to find the ideal location for the market. The next was advertisement, getting the word out. How we were going to use those advertisement outlets, the funding to get advertisement, because advertisement is not cheap, and then equipment. This is a picture of our farmers market in Hoopa. We have pop-ups here and tables, and it's a nice grassy shaded location that we're on. So we're going to talk about how we were able to find the ideal location and then find funding to pay for our advertisement and our equipment that was needed. Advertisement is key. People aren't going to come unless they know about it and they know where it is and how to get there. When we first started, we started advertising that our market was at the community garden. One thing that we found is not a lot of people, even though everybody that lives in Hoopa, again, it's a very remote, small town. Everybody knows where everybody is, but they seem to not know where the community garden was. And so that was kind of a barrier when people were coming. They're just like, we just don't know where it's at, Meagen. So we had to find the right type of location and advertise where that location was. And so we like to use and mix it up. So we started with, like a simple flyer, mixed it up the next year. So using something that's eye-catching, and make sure that it's consistent, and then build advertisement into your funding application. So this is a very important. We put this part into our SNAP Ed funding, and also look for other outlets that we can find some funds that we could pay for advertisement, because we wanted to hit not only social media, which is free, but we wanted to hit like our newspaper, because a lot of our elders buy the local newspaper or have the local newspaper mailed to them. And then if we were to advertise in there, it's about $400 in advertisement. And so we needed to find the funding to do that. So we were able to build that into one of our funding agreements. We wanted to make sure that it was in a location that people seen it. And, a lot of times it's like, yeah, you could save money and get the quarter sheet of an advertisement, or you can go with the half sheet or a full sheet. I recommend trying them out and then different areas of the paper. So working with your local paper or your local news outlet, that's a good way to do it. Again, you can use social media. A lot of us are on Facebook or Instagram, and those are free outlets. But if you wanted to pay for advertisement to reach a broader audience, you can do that as well. And I think that that's a small fee, but making sure that you're building that into your funding agreements, and building that into if you're getting foundational funding, or if you're using like USDA funds to do that. So going into that leveraging funding, there's several different types of funding that you can get. And this is how we got some of our equipment and some of our tables and chairs and pop-ups. First, we look for local funding. So you can get like funding through credit union applications. So like there's a lot of like community grants out there. Our local credit union has a community grant. It's like up to like $5,000, which is not a lot, but for a farmer's market, it is a lot when we're getting equipment or items that are needed. There is a local Humble Area Foundation in our community. We access some of their funding too as well for, and this is all like pieced together in different years that we were able to leverage that funding, as well as we had a local donation made through the local hospital in the area, and they had a healthy communities grant that they gave out, and they donated funding to 50 organizations that applied for it throughout the county, and we were one of those ones. And one of the things that we built into that was the farmers market and advertisement and different things. So like piecing that funding together and leveraging it is a good idea. USDA has a bunch of grants through their Food Nutrition Services program. They have a bunch of farmers market grants, the FMMP grant, farmers market. I forgot what the acronym stands for. They have a funding grant that you can get for your farmers market as well. Rural development was where we got the funding for our tables and chairs and pop-ups through their community facilities grants. That grant is a 75% grant funding, but you have to come up with a 25% match for that. So I think everything cost us about 20,000. We ended up paying 5 of it, and rural development paid for the rest. But we got more than just tables, chairs, and pop-ups. We got like a Conex box to store everything in. Native American Ag Fund is a national Native organization, so leaning on those programs that are Native led. First Nations Development, they're a great source of funding that you can leverage. Native American Ag Fund, actually, we wrote into one of their funding agreements that we received from them. I forgot what the size is. It's like a 10 by 5 trailer that we use, and that trailer is like one of those tow trailers, and we put all of our tables, chairs, and pop-ups in there, and that's where we store them at during the season, off season. But it's a really good big trailer, and we're able to get all the tables, chairs, and pop-ups in and loaded out, and it makes just that market much more easier. You could also do some fundraising. There's a lot of opportunities through fundraising. You can use GoFundMe or just old-fashioned fundraising, whether it's just like maybe you're selling food there at the farmers market to help purchase something or help to buy some of that advertisement money that you need. You have abilities to leverage this type of funding, and that's what it took for us to really get up and going. As like, we didn't hit like a jackpot of funding off the back. We just kind of pieced together all of these opportunities to be able to make this market successful, and that leveraging of that funding. Again, Native American Ag Fund, they have a new cycle coming out in April 2024. Definitely apply for that. It's a Native organization funded through the Keep Seagull settlement. They're an amazing group of people to work with. They're really great for Indian country. And especially if you're getting these, everything's tied to accessing capital and helping your producers access that capital. And the way that we were able to do it is through a market and have that market availability for our producers. Producers are going to be the backbone of your farmers market. And if you don't have them, and if you're not able to help them access the capital that they need, it's not going to be a successful market. And so that's a great organization. First Nations Development is another one. I think they have a community grant too as well that goes in like a community nutrition grant that you can apply for to be able to fund some of these opportunities for your farmers market. With that local funding, again, we use the Humble Area Foundation. We also were able to access a SNAP Ed grant through the CalFresh program. CalFresh, it does it by county. And so those funding agreements help us assist with Monday Night Market. One of the ways that we did that is we also provide market match. So we put into our funding agreement a certain amount of money for our market match, which is when somebody slides their EBT benefits, they get a certain amount of match to it. So like if they slide $20, we give them $20 to match for them to spend at the farmers market. Along with, we've had advertisement built into that, packaging materials if we need to. We built that into that SNAP Ed grant. And then also, making sure that you have like what we have, like vouchers for our elders. And so getting our elders to come. And then so we leverage that funding to help support our community and that community need. You could also, again, go back to that fundraising. You could use GoFundMe. You could use campaigns like Giving Tuesday. So Giving Tuesday is like the day after Thanksgiving. They have like a national campaign of like donating and foundational funding to organizations that are, small and remote. And, you can always do a Giving Tuesday campaign. I definitely suggest that if you are going to create a campaign like that, that you give yourself at least a half a year to a year of planning, because you're going to want to get the word out there. You're going to want to mass email. You're going to want to hit the funders that you want to try to get to be able to give or donate funding to your local market or your local farmers market. And this area right here, with leveraging programs and leveraging funding, we're going to turn it over to Kristiana and Mallory, and they're going to go over a little general overview of WIC. And so I'm just going to hand the mic over to them.
Thanks, Megan. I'll go through some of the basics here, and then Mallory can feel free to jump in with anything I'm missing, or if there's other information that might be relevant. What I wanted to talk about specifically was the WIC Farmers Market Nutrition Program. This is a program that's associated but a little bit different than the general WIC program that many folks are familiar with. What this program does is it allows individuals who benefit from it to get essentially a check that can be used to purchase fresh produce, fresh vegetables, fresh fruit from either a farmer's market or even a roadside stand. So this is putting some funds into individuals' hands so that you, as either a vendor at a farmer's market, or if you have your own roadside stand, there's just another avenue that of money that folks can spend to buy your product. So who's eligible for this program? So who's eligible for the program, similar to the general WIC program, is pregnant and postpartum women and children who are up to 5 years old who are at nutritional risk. The program is under the purview of USDA Food Nutrition Service, but it's actually administered. So who's actually doing the work of it is either state agencies, individual state agencies, and that agency can be different depending on what state you're in. So sometimes it's the Department of Agriculture in a state, sometimes it's Department of Health and Human Services, or also can be administered by an Indian tribal organization if your tribe is running its own WIC program, is administering the WIC program. So how do you go about using this program? There's a certification process that is required to use the program. And so it can be either, again, I'd mentioned that it could be a farmer's market where it could be used, or also an individual farm stand, just if you have a farm and you have a stand right there. The certification is kind of a two-step process. So for a farmer's market, the market master, usually whoever's in charge of the farmer's market and has the ability to enter into things on behalf of the market, would apply for certification for the market as in general. And then each vendor who wanted to accept the checks that individuals would bring under this program would have to register and get certified as well. And with that certification, there's some training requirements, basically just explaining what product can be purchased with it, how to handle the checks or the vouchers, and the basic administration of the program. Now, you can also do this if you have a farm market. So I have a farm and I have a farm stand. I'm sorry, if you have a farm with a farm stand. So I have my own farm with a farm stand, down by the bottom of the road. And this could be used, I could use this as well. Now, again, it's a two-step process for certification. So the farm stand owner essentially has to be certified, kind of similar like the farmer's market scenario. And then whoever's the vendor also has to have certification as a vendor. Now, that's oftentimes could be the same person, depending on how your farm is set up. But that's another option as well. I talked about how it could be administered either by a state agency or a Indian tribal organization. So if your tribe actually is set up so that to administer WIC itself and not through the state, then the certification process can be done through the tribe, through the ITO. And again, it's handled similarly to the WIC program, which is why the certification process is housed in that same agency. If your tribe does not have that, then the state right now, how the current policies are set up is that it would have to go through a state agency. We have a list of resources that we're going to post in the chat that list out by state who the contact information is and who the agency is that you would contact if you are interested in this. And there are also are ITOs that are doing it as well. And we can put that list in there as well in the chat so you have reference to it. What am I missing, Mallory, that I haven't touched on?
Anything, I think that is probably pretty much just a broad overview right now. But obviously, if you guys have questions, we'd love to hear them.
Yeah, so that's a good time to ask if you guys have any questions. You can drop them in the chat. I know that Mary Bell is monitoring the chat, and I think she's dropped some of this information that Kristiana has posted in there, but or feel free to come off of mute, whatever's easiest for yourself. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate that, Mallory and Kristiana. And if you guys still have time to ask questions, I just wanted to also touch a little bit on, what it is that also ways that you can leverage funding for your producers. We're going to go more in depth in it in the next series, but with the community buy-in. But we are also able to receive funding through Native American Ag Fund and through the CalFresh grant. And we actually got a specialty crops block grant as well about 5 years ago when we first started up our market. And these grants, we were able to help our producers with soil, seed starts, amendments, and then like drip systems. So like helping them get these types of things that they needed to get up and going as producers that might cost them a lot of money to invest in those things. We were able to help them with that. And, through us helping them, they actually were the ones that were at our farmers market. So leveraging that funding too, as well as like helping your tribal farmers or, those that are in your community get their farms going and established and helping them with that, and investing in that capital in the beginning for them to be able to have a successful grow season so that your market could be successful. I know that one thing that our farmers have done is that they've kind of now are in this area because we've had it going since 2017. Our farmers market has been in operation, and since then, they have been able to scale their operation to the amount that they'll need for the farmers market season in Hoopa. We did have a farmer at one time that was hitting not only the market in Hoopa, but outside markets. So they were coming to the coast, which is about 60 miles away, and they were selling at those markets too. I think we have like 2 or 3 of them that do that, that sell at different markets. So they scale according to those markets that they're going to access, which has been really great and beneficial with us helping them get to that point where, they were able to, decide if they want to just stay at our farmers market, if they want to seek outside markets. And that's been super beneficial, but definitely want to give opportunity for you guys to have, ask any questions so that we can answer them while we're on the call today.
Meagen, when you went to go and utilize some of that SNAP Ed funding, what were some of the hurdles that you experienced going through that? And maybe that could help folks kind of know what to expect and be able to, be ready for those potentially too.
Yeah, so when we first started, we are actually the Klamath Trinity Resource Conservation District was formed in 2007. They're a tribal nonprofit formed underneath Hoopa Valley Tribes, Title 54, which is a nonprofit title. So they're a tribally chartered nonprofit. And that was kind of hard for the SNAP Ed people to understand that sovereignty umbrella. They're like, is the tribe putting in for this? And we're like, no, it's the KTRCD. They're standalone organizations so that they have the ability to enter into agreements. If they default on agreements, they could be sued or sue. So they're a standalone organization that operates as an instrumentality of the tribe. So we're under the umbrella of the tribe, but we have autonomy from like the tribal government. So it wasn't actually the tribe that was putting in for the grant funding. It was actually the KTRCD that was doing it. And so that education piece was something that we had to be able to teach the field office and the people that we were working with. And that came with a lot of the funding agreements that we actually were getting in the beginning. It took a lot of education and a lot of like working through like their questions, because they had several questions for us. And so being able to answer those questions and having them understand the tribe's sovereignty and how it all worked.
Those are some good things to think about, having all that ready to go beforehand, so that you're ready whenever you face those situations, because they do seem to happen all across the board and all across the nation too.
Yeah, and with our EBT machine, it was the same thing, because we had to apply to be an EBT authorized vendor, and it was the same thing. We had to educate them, and it took us like the field office wasn't the ideal location to try to get that authorization application approved through. So we went to the regional office. And so what was really great about us at the time is we were working with the Intertribal Ag Council. And so the Intertribal Ag Council was able to get us in touch with those key people. The guy that helped us through, he actually ended up on our doorstep just because he was visiting with IAC in the area. And so it was like perfect timing. We were able to get the application through. His name is Michael Ladd. And so he works in the Western region, and he was very helpful through FNS. And so if you have any problems, maybe we can contact him and be like, okay, this is not working, because he had to help us work through that process as well. And all of it comes down to just us having patience, for one, to educate the federal government on how tribal sovereignty works.
I'm glad you mentioned the Intertribal Ag Council. Meagen is on their board as well. She wears many hats. Once you get to know her a little bit more, you realize how busy of a lady she truly is. But I pasted in the chat the website link for them. They have technical assistance across the nation. So if you are looking into this, that might be a good place to look for help to navigate those different systems. Could be your TA at IAC. So definitely check them out. They're a great resource.
Yeah, so any questions, feel free to unmute and ask them. We want to make this as interactive as you guys will let us have it.
And if you all think of a question later on or don't want to ask right now, Meagen's email is a great way to ask that. And I will make sure that that's in the chat. And then as well in our follow-up email, her email will be on there as well. So you'll be able to directly reach out that way. And I'll also make sure that Mallory and Kristiana are also on there as well. So you can have their emails, or you can go to our website at any time. All of our contact information that is there as well. But we do appreciate y'all taking time to come to our webinar today and learn more about different programs and how they can be used. And I think Meagen has some great examples of how in her community they've been able to utilize an assortment of different programs from different agencies in different places. And I think that that's really the critical part, is kind of being diversified in a way to be able to be successful.
Yeah, and it just really takes like one person in your community to kind of like spend the time to look at these resources. Again, access your TA network, because a lot of them have understanding a lot of these programs that could be helpful in your community, and they have like contacts with like regional USDA departments, or they might even have contact with this, state level. And so those are definite people that you can get into contact with to help you with that, especially if you want to start getting these programs up and going. With the farmers market market match and the voucher program, and if you can get WIC, it's not only a benefit for the ones that are using it, because like our elders depend on our vouchers. A lot of our kids get, like, we even use like the tribal TANF program. So there's a tribal TANF in our community. We work with them and they give vouchers out to their clients for kids. All of that, those vouchers are very instrumental into getting your tribal producers in there, because they actually, that's a good income for them. A lot of our producers say, like, if you didn't have the vouchers, this market wouldn't be as successful as it is. And a lot of that comes from like accessing and working with these programs to say, like, hey, could you pay your clients? We've even went to the diabetes center and was like, hey, do you have vouchers that you can give your clients for our farmers market? And so working with those local programs to create opportunities for, the economic development within your farmers market is ideal, and ways that you can access that funding.
Yeah, and even Meagen had mentioned advertising at the beginning of the talk, and getting the word out. Even with folks knowing that your market is one that can take whatever program it may be. If it's if the vendors are eligible and certified to take the WIC checks and the WIC vouchers, that all of that serves such an important purpose, and also helps draw folks to the market maybe who wouldn't be thinking of coming otherwise.
Yep, that's a great point. And that's one of the things that we want to make sure that we do on our flyers. It's like, we accept EBT, we have market match, we do TANF vouchers. And so that advertisement is super, important to be able to get that information out there. And I know it's like, sometimes it's hard when I'm putting together flyers, like trying to get so much information, but making sure it's eye-catching and it's not something that people have to read a ton of, but that it's there. So it's like, having that advertisement is key.
And I mentioned when I was talking about the WIC program, that there's a certification and there's a process, and it might sound, it might make it sound like it's something that, oh, is it worth doing? It's a lot of the training and stuff that's required, and all of that. A lot of it is online. I mean, every state is, and tribe is going to be a little different, but the information, generally, I was just doing a little scanning of the different states to see how it was presented. A lot of the training's online, a lot of the information is online. So I wouldn't let the fact that it's a certification process stop you from at least looking at it. And again, for farmers markets, but even if it's a farm stand where you're the only, producer selling your own product on your farm.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make, is that making sure that it's not as hard as we make it seem sometimes, and that's one of the things. When I first started up with the farmers market, people were like, it's never going to work in Hoopa. Like, I had so many people tell me farmers market wasn't going to work, and I was like, well, we could try, and so like trying it and doing a lot of these things, the funding actually was, people were actually like, hey, have you tried this program? Have you tried that program? Have you done this? And so once it started, it was, everything started to come together for it. And I think it's like one time, sometimes we just kind of put it on ourselves, like that might be too difficult to do, or other people might say it's not going to work. But at the end of the day, all you could do is try it, and it could be a super successful thing.
Meagen, how has this impacted your community and the number of producers or people who have entered into agriculture?
It's impacted my community tremendously. So when I first started with the KTRCD back in 2011, we were running a CSA program. I think it was 2012. Anyways, I always get my years wrong. We were running a CSA program, which is Community Supported Agriculture Program, and we were buying produce from local farmers and putting together boxes, and I think it was $10 at the time. But all of the farmers were non-native or were like 15 miles from the res, you know, so we didn't really have any farmers that were actual native farmers or tribal producers. So, you know, that was one thing that I seen in the beginning. I was like, how could we improve this so that we actually have our own people that are selling the produce to us and that we're giving that out? So, you know, once we started that farmers market, you know, now we have over, you know, 90% of our producers, which there's about 15 of them, are tribal people, whether they're, you know, local tribal members or they're neighboring tribal members, you know, those people are tribal. And, you know, one of the things that I could say that has been such a benefit for me, myself personally, is that my family has a huge investment in our farmers market. Like my boys, I have 6 kids. All 6 of them, you know, have helped in some form or fashion with the farmers market. My daughter's been instrumental. She lives in a neighboring community, so she's not as much there. But my 4 boys that are teenagers, you know, they actually help set up farmers market every week. So they set up the tables, the chairs, the pop-ups. So they're super involved in it, and they even say like, we can't schedule anything on Mondays because we have farmers market going on. So, you know, that's not only been a benefit to, you know, our community, but to myself in general, is just like having all those people work together. And, you know, all of our vendors are super happy to see the boys. They're like, yay, the boys are here, they can help us unload like these 50 melons that we have, right? Like some of these producers can produce a lot of stuff, but it's heavy. And so they're thankful for that. And so those have been great, you know, opportunities to see growth, not only in our tribal producer population, but just having that community help and having kids doing something for their people and their community in a positive way has been a benefit.
Hi, this is Joanne. I had a quick question.
Okay.
So as your I'll turn my video on so you can see me. But so I noticed that your thing was Monday night market. How did you come across that particular day? Is that what the community wanted, or what we're seeing? So I'm from Pendleton, Oregon, and me and Catherine Minthorn, she's part of IEC. We want to start a farmers market here on the reservation. And however, there's a bunch of little community towns that surround our reservation. So there's Pendleton, and then there's about 4 other little towns about, I don't know, 30 miles away, but each town almost like they all claim a day. And so I was just curious, how did you guys come up with a Monday? Because we're trying to find a day. We don't want, so like Pendleton, they have their big farmers market on Friday. That's probably the biggest one in our little area. But we want to have one here literally on the reservation at our governance center for, like you're saying, you know, for tribal communities, you know, with the products by tribal members. So I was just curious with regards to, how did you guys pick Monday?
So it was kind of similar to what you're talking about. Like each one of the towns picked their own farmers market day. Well, for a lot of our producers that were up and going and that were already stable, they were attending a Saturday market. And so we figured that the produce that they picked, you know, or that had been ready in that time frame would be good for Monday too. And so like we kind of worked with them on that. So a lot of our producers, you know, helped us to pick that date so that we didn't have a lot of like produce that was going to waste or not good. And so that was a day that we all settled on, and it worked really well in the evening because people can get off of work and attend the farmers market. Another thing that we kind of instituted is like having like a hot food option there. So like having like either we have now in our community, we have like 3 food trailers that just started up within the last couple years. So we have like a pizza place and one that kind of does overall types of food, and then another taco guy. And so we have them come to the market, and a lot of people in the community attend because they're looking for a dinner option on Monday night. So like getting off of work and going to the market and buying that food, that was a good way that we were able to also take that day, because it was a day of the week. There's not a lot of in our community, not a lot of sports activities that are happening on that evening time, because during our farmers market season, Friday nights are usually football nights. And so, trying to work with the community and with the producers to be able to select the best days possible is kind of where why we took that day.
Perfect. That makes sense. I like the thought of when you stated, they're already doing, they're picking the produce the day before and then also having, a food carts there. That's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that in California, you can utilize hot foods sometimes for some of those programs that we mentioned in this webinar. So I know that in your community, some of the vendors are actually certified, so then they can sell hot food to folks through those programs too at your farmers market, correct?
Yeah, so through the SNAP Ed program, our SNAP funding, you can buy hot foods, and so people can use their SNAP benefits to buy hot foods. And so we do that with the vouchers. Also with the tribal TANF vouchers, they allow their TANF clients to do that as well. So, we basically tell those local programs when they're making those vouchers, like, this is how we allow these other vouchers to be used. And so this is how we would want your vouchers to be able to be used. And so it's been a big benefit. Like especially the elder vouchers, some of the elders just come for dinner, and they're just like, okay, I can buy dinner tonight, or the farmers market could buy me dinner tonight. And so that's a huge benefit for them. I've had elders that can't walk, but they were able to get into their car and drive up and be like, I can't walk around and pick up my food. They'll like drive up like a drive-through, and I'll go run and go get their food for them and stuff like that. It's really been a benefit and a help for them, but it also helps them to access a nice warm meal. Well, if we have any more questions, feel free to ask. We still got a bunch of time left. But you can always contact any of us if you're not, remembering a question right now, because I know how that goes. You'll be like, dang it, I should have asked them this question. You can always contact us. We have multiple social media platforms. We have Facebook, Instagram, also what is it called?
LinkedIn.
I was gonna call it LinkedIn. LinkedIn. So if you ever want to hit us up on any of those platforms and ask a question, feel free to do that. Or there's my email, mbaldy@uark.edu. We have our website, indigenousfoodandag.com, as well as the Native Food Safety.org website. If you ever want to go on that, it's going to show a lot of our trainings that we do. So not only do I, help with these types of things, I also provide produce safety training free of charge for communities. One of the things that we instituted at our farmers market was that every one of our producer would take the produce safety training, just because we wanted to make sure that all the produce that was sold there was safe, because we do have a lot of elders that access the program. We do have a lot of kids. And so we wanted to make sure that each one of our vendors had that training. And so if you want me to give that training, just give us a holler, and work with us on a date that works for you all and us, and we can come up and give you guys that training.
I also wanted to highlight that we do have a couple more webinars coming up with Meagen. Next week, we have the last part in the series, which is diving into community engagement and how to get that community buy-in to make sure that your farmers market is successful. And then on the 14th, we have a spicy salsa class for canning. So if you want to join us for that, you can register at the link that I just posted in the chat on the nativefoodsafety.org website. But we would love to have you attend both of those. We're looking forward to it. And I know I really enjoyed eating the salsa, so I think you guys will enjoy learning how to make it as well. And hopefully then you can take it and make it at home too. So
Yeah. Yeah, so if you guys have any more questions, please feel free to ask. We got a few more minutes and we just don't want to get off here without answering any of those burning questions. All right. Well, with that, I just wanted to thank you guys all for attending. Thank you, Kristiana and Mallory, for giving us your WIC updates. We really appreciate it. And, thank you, Mary Bell, for running these. It was one of our brainstormed ideas, and we're glad that it came out to fruition. Just want to see more of these coming up and going. And as you're going through this process and you're like, oh, dang it, how did Meagen do that? Please feel free to reach out to us. And, we would love to help you through this process. That's what our organization is good at. And again, if it's not us, maybe IAC is a good avenue. So, making sure that you contact those people you have out there that are able to help you through this process, because it's such a benefit for your community to have a farmer's market. It's such a benefit for your producers to have an access to, that market, or a sustainable market for them. And, just that overall community, it's a great thing.
miigwech, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.